Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast. My name is Barbara Thompson. Each week, I'll be bringing you a self-care expert or a message to help you to discover how to live your best life and understand your mind-body connection. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now, let the Studio Chat begin. Now, today's a little bit different. You may have clicked on this episode because you may have tried talk therapy before, or you may have seen my post on my social media page, or you've been thinking, maybe I do want to see a therapist or a counsellor, but I don't really know what it's about, and I'm just intrigued. I just want to know a little bit more. So you've come to the right place. So today I'm going to share with you my personal story about talk therapy and how I came to trying it out. And also, now I'm a counsellor and I'm someone that, to give you a bit of insight, I'm sure 20 years ago, and I know 20 years ago, is actually when I was reflecting back on my own therapy journey. I saw my first counsellor when I was 24 and I had totally forgotten about it. So it's really interesting that I know back then how I felt about it, how I felt about therapy in general. And I'm someone that I didn't really like talking to people about my innermost feelings. I didn't come from a family like that. It made me feel really uncomfortable. And there was no way in hell that I wanted to talk to a therapist, because that was for people that were had issues, real big issues. And so I was kind of like, oh no, it just felt so big for me. It felt so uncomfortable. It felt so foreign and so weird that I'll just keep everything to myself, because I know it's a safe place and I know myself and I've got this, basically. But I know when I was 24, at that time, I saw a lady, I would say about 3 or 4 times, and I know I was quite standoffish, and I was like, yeah, I just wasn't open enough. I wasn't ready. I was ready enough to dip my toe in the water. And then my next journey from that was when I was 32. So I was 24, and then I was 32, and I found myself, I distinctly remember this, it was a male therapist this time. So my first one was a lady and the second one was a man. And I was in a relationship that had been a number of relationships that were a certain type, and I felt really stuck. And I knew that I kept doing something over and over again, but I didn't know. I wanted direction. I wanted someone that I could talk to and kind of air out what was happening and all my thoughts and kind of give me a bit of guidance. And at that point at 32, I was over repeating the same thing over and over again. But yeah, at the same time, I was stuck. I don't know if any of you can relate to that. And so I reached out and I really built a nice relationship with this man. And unfortunately, he, as my therapist, I would have had 6 to 8 sessions with him. I got a phone call one morning and he actually passed away of a heart attack. So I didn't continue that therapy journey after that. But from those few sessions I had with him, that was the beginning of, I wasn't really into it then either. I was just, I was stuck and I was looking for answers. And I think that's where talk therapy, where I later on in my life became more aware of it and actually decided to put 2 feet in, because I was not only ready for it, but the main thing was I was looking for answers. I knew that there was more to life. I wanted more out of life, but Google wasn't going to give that to me. All the books I was reading wasn't doing it for me. I was like, it was like this niggle inside me that was just like, I can keep pushing this down. I can keep avoiding how I'm feeling. I can keep pretending. I can keep doing all the things that I've been doing. Or how about I try this talk therapy? I don't know. It was just this feeling, this niggle that wouldn't go away. Maybe I should talk to someone. Maybe I should talk to someone. But that kind of went away after 32, and I just lived my life, And then when I moved to Australia, it was when I was, let me think about this so I've had both female and male therapists, and they're different in many ways, and every therapist is different. You really find, I think, looking back now, I've had 5 therapists in my life, and I had no idea that I had tried that many. I thought I only had a couple, and it wasn't until I was jumping on this episode to talk to you guys today about talk therapy, I was like, let me write down the ages and who I went and saw so I can share my own therapy journey with you. And I was a bit blown away that, actually, I have seen 5 different people, all who left me feeling in 5 different ways. And so when I was 38 was when the same patterns in my life kept repeating, and I just was like, I can't do this anymore. And the thought process was like, I want to go see someone because I actually mentally, emotionally, psychologically I can't do this type of relationship anymore. I can't do life anymore. Like, this is like, what do I do with all this stuff? And so I looked and found a male therapist. And then after that I had, and he was great in the beginning, but he wasn't the best. And one day we'll share all about that and why it's important to have a safe place with a therapist. But after that situation with him, I was just like, nah, I'm still not happy with, still not my therapist. I still don't have the answers. I still have that niggling inside me. I'm going to try one more time. I can't believe I did it. Like, the resilience you need to have to not only find a therapist, but actually get out of your comfort zone and actually be prepared to do the work and be vulnerable and talk to someone, and then give it like 2 or 3 sessions to see if you connect with them. That takes some resilience and some guts. And so then I saw this lady, and I just really didn't like her personally. She was too clinical for me. The room it's kind of like what you would expect. Like, I didn't lie on a couch, but I was in a normal size room, and she was sitting I'll never forget it. She was sitting in a chair in the corner of the room, like dressed up for corporate work, as in like high heels, really beautifully dressed, but high heels and corporate blazer and like full face of makeup, which is beautiful, nice. And she was an older lady, and she would wear her glasses on the tip of her nose. And when I would say certain things, and mind you, at this point in my life, and this was only 8 months after the therapist that I saw, I was sharing some very big things with her. And as I was sharing these hugely vulnerable pieces with her, she would look at me over her glasses. You know how, I don't know if you guys have had a teacher or a grandparent or someone that when they wear their glasses on the end of their nose, they kind of look over at you. And I really felt judged. At this point in my life, there were things going on that she wasn't listening to me. I felt really unsafe. My life was in danger, and I clearly had to say that many times. I'm scared. My life is in danger, and all that kind of stuff. And she wasn't actually listening to me. She was just too involved in her own stuff as a therapist, wasn't holding the space for me. And so after a while, I was like, you're actually not listening to me. You're not validating how I'm feeling, and you're not actually really helping me. And so in the end, through word of mouth, I found another therapist, and she was really great because she was down to earth, really casual, professional, but casual. But she was just fully herself, which enabled me to feel comfortable. And over time, it didn't happen straight away, I could feel safe again. And the things I was sharing with her, she was just like, wow, I can't believe that I've had two bad experiences with a therapist, but one in particular with the man that when I was 38 was just absolutely horrific. And that's part of the reason why I became a therapist, because I was like, I don't ever want anyone to be vulnerable enough to reach out for help and to be treated in that way. So when I went and saw the last therapist that I had, and I saw her basically every week for 2.5 years, and I consistently turned up and put the work in, she even said to me, I'm actually surprised that you reached out and wanted to tell your story and talk about this one more time after what you've been through the last couple of times. And I was like, yeah, I know. But I just knew, I just had this feeling in my gut there was more. And I just didn't want to repeat my life. I was in my late 30s and I was just like, I can't live my life in this cycle, in this pattern. I can't repeat this stuff anymore. I am done. And that's why I don't know if this last therapist that I had, if that hadn't worked out, I don't know if I would have had enough in me to find someone else. So that's interesting. But look, it took me, I didn't find therapy properly until, my late 30s, and I tried 5 people, and the last therapist I saw, I was dedicated to. It was 2.5 years. Now, I'm not saying that everyone needs to do that. Not at all. It was just a personal choice, and that was my choice. It didn't come from the therapist. It was like, you know what? I really want to learn about myself and care for myself in a different way that I haven't done before. And this stuff is not easy. You need to be vulnerable, open to it. Before I go any further, I'm going to say that I'm probably going to repeat myself a few times in this episode today. And there's a reason why I'm going to repeat myself, because the stuff I'm talking about is really important. And I want to come from a place as also from being a client, but now also as a therapist. I was in a very successful and have had a very successful marketing career. I was very good at it, really loved it. I had no desire or need to want to change my career. Wasn't anything I was looking for. Yes, I've always liked to talk, and I've always had roles in my life where I've always had to do big presentations and speak in front of a lot of people and use my voice in that way. But never ever wanted to be a therapist. I fell into it, and one of the reasons why I fell into it is a few years ago, I had an opportunity to be a sales and marketing manager for a counselling clinic. And when I was working in that counselling clinic, I got to see how a therapy clinic was run. And I was really blown away by the number of people that kept coming up to me and saying, can I come and see you? Can I come and book in for you? And all I would do is build rapport with these people that would come in before their appointment. I'd be giving them their invoices. I'd book them in for appointments. I was kind of like a receptionist, admin type person, but I was doing the sales and marketing and managing this clinic. It was a very successful clinic. And very quickly, like anyone, and you say hi to people and just give them the time of day, and I could see that they were nervous. Even then, I wasn't really up with reading body language or anything, but I could feel people's energy, and I was like, and I'd see kids and teenagers and adults and older adults. I'd see all sorts of walks of life, and I could just feel that they just needed someone to reassure them and to help them and to make them feel comfortable, especially when it was their first time, but also when they were coming for regular appointments. I wanted to be that friendly face that they were like, oh, I feel safe. That was just inbuilt in me. And I was really blown away by the number of people that would come up to me and say, can I book in and see you? Do you do therapy? And I was like, oh, no. And they're like, no, but can I book in? And this was by this time, a lot of people were saying this. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not qualified. I'm not a therapist. And then people would actually say, I don't care. Can I come and see you? And I was like, oh, no. And that stuck with me for a couple of years. And it was just something that as I was continuing my own therapy journey for that 2.5 years, I was like, with the bad, I wouldn't say bad, it was actually a disgusting way that something that should never have happened that I experienced with a therapist. that I don't want for anyone to experience. I had that, and alongside the 2.5 years as I was learning about all this stuff, I was like, and then in the back of my mind, I had people always saying to me, man, I've always helped people or coached people or, I don't know, made people feel comfortable. I was like, oh, is there something in this? So when I share with you that, yes, I'm a therapist and we're talking today about how talk therapy works, I don't want you to think for a second that I'm doing it because it's what I do for a job or it's my business. It's coming from a place of being someone that I was a client. I had no intention of becoming a therapist, but also I'm someone that I used to think this stuff was a crock of shit. Like, I was like, oh my God, why on earth would you open yourself up and be vulnerable to a stranger? And why would you talk about that stuff? And why would you want to feel uncomfortable? Sweep it under the carpet, suck it up, carry on, you'll be fine, tough it out. That was how I used to work. And it's so weird because I've done a whole 360, but I'm saying that I didn't think, I knew people would go to therapy and I'd be like, oh, good for you. Wow, you must have some issues. And I mean that in the nicest way, because by now, what am I? I'm 77 episodes in. So I'm sure if you've heard a podcast, listen to an episode of mine on this podcast, you know that I'm real and raw and honest, and that's just how I am. That's why you're listening to this, is because you know you're going to get the truth from me. And this is my truth. This is just my perspective and my journey. And then as a therapist now, how I see that talking therapy works and how it helps people. And that's why I do what I do. And so if it's something that you're thinking of doing, before I get into like the pros and cons and stuff of it, I want you to be honest with yourself. It's not easy. There is some form of, you need to be vulnerable, and you do need to be, you'll never be 100% ready, but there needs to be a part of you that needs to be like, okay, I'll work with my therapist. Like, I need to kind of dip my toe in. I can't sit there and expect my therapist to do all the work for me. And you need to be consistent. So not only showing up when the bad shit happens, but just showing up and showing up to the appointment. And sometimes the appointments where you feel like, oh, I didn't learn anything today, or nothing big shifted for me, is the times that I can promise you is when the work is being done. And it is uncomfortable. It is very uncomfortable. And you need to show up. And there's just something on social media that I kept seeing. I was just like, nah, I have to do an episode about this. I have to talk about this. There's some people that I've seen on social media that are quite negative about talk therapy. And like, that's totally okay, because it's not for everyone and we're all different. But I want you to think that it could not be for you for right now. So if you're like, nah, it's not for me, but I'm just listening to this because I'm curious about it, that's awesome. But I want you to be open and curious about this whole episode today, because if it's not for you now, it may be for you in 5 or 10 years time, because life happens, things happen, you change. I am someone that never ever would have gone to a therapist, okay? So I'd love you right now just to be open and curious, and you know, personally, I'm open to all types of therapies and modalities, and I really believe it's what feels right for the individual at that time. And I'm wary of anyone in this space that I work in that's always like, oh, this is no good, or this doesn't work, or this is outdated, and if it had worked by now, no one would have mental health issues. And these are the stuff that I've seen online. I'm like, what the heck? Like, if you work in this space, it's, you know that there's different modalities for different people at different times. Yes. But if someone's really anti something, that I sit back and think, oh, why are you so against this? I am a product of how well it works, but I've done all the work myself. So when you're a client and you go to a therapist, you're the one that does all the stuff. You're the one that makes the changes. You just have guidance. So it's just something that I wanted to talk about today, because it works. 100% works. And the majority of people that say it doesn't work, there's a few things happening there. I would, at a guess, take it that they may not have tried it. Some people just bag it because they bag it because it's unknown. Some people don't like it because it's actually just not for them, and that's okay. Some people don't like it because they haven't found a therapist that they connect with. And we'll talk more about that in a minute and how important that is. They also may not like it because sometimes as a therapist we need to ask questions that can bring things up or disrupt things, and it's not happy, happy, joy, joy all the time, and it can make you, can hit a nerve, and sometimes when it hits a nerve, people's reaction is like, oh, this is dumb, this is crap, it doesn't work, I hate it, or, oh, you're making me feel uncomfortable, I'm not going back. And guess what happens? You go back into your shell and you got to keep repeating that same pattern. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And so that's what I find too, that some people sabotage themselves, some people just haven't had that conversation with themselves before they look for a therapist that, hey, it took me 5 goes. It took me to my late 30s, early 40s to do this stuff. Some people will never do this stuff. That's okay. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is there needs to be a part of you that's like, yeah, I'm going to give this a go. And not, I'm going to try and be like 20% here. You need to be all in. And, it's just sometimes our ego can hold us back too. But what I find is most people avoid discomfort. People hate it when they get to, normally it's number 3, session 3, session 4. People that are committed in doing the work sail past these sessions. But the people that are like, have resistance, don't really want to do the work, don't really want to change for a number of reasons. I don't want you to hear that there's right or wrong here. But when people feel uncomfortable and they're like, I don't want to do this, they'll just be like, oh, it doesn't work for me. And most of the time people will book an initial appointment or come to therapy for a reason, but it's never the reason they've come. So say someone will come to me, I want to put a disclaimer in here, this is not about any of my clients or anyone I know, this is actually just fictitious, this is just made up, but it's taken from parts of things that I know to be true. So I want to share with you that, for example, someone may come to therapy because I'm really, they're really anxious and they're really stressed and they talk negatively about themselves and they want to change. Deep down, the underlying issue is they're deeply unhappy and they're not in love with their wife or their husband anymore, and they may be in a relationship with someone else, and also they could have been alcoholic. And this is all the underlying stuff that no one would ever know about them. And so what I mean is people come to therapy for one reason, but most of the time it's never that reason, and everything is connected. So I just want you to be open and curious, and I'm just wary of anyone that says that, therapy doesn't work, and I don't know why it's still around. There's so many other modalities, but the thing about therapy is that when you're consistent and you've got the right therapist, as today is all about, talking therapy works. And this is a spotlight episode on this, and people may have had a bad experience, and I have had a bad experience, and I don't know why I kept going. But like I've said, it's just this real deep desire that I wanted to change. I didn't want to just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and I knew I wanted better for myself. I just wanted better for myself. So with my own personal experience, I really enjoyed therapy because, I know, weird, right? I really enjoyed it because at the point in my life when I did that 2.5 years especially, that was really focused for myself. I was living in a different country. I didn't really know anyone. I didn't have many friends around me at that point. So I was really lonely and I was looking for connection. So it gave me someone to talk to. It was a safe place. And unbiased. I mean, how many times in your life can you have a talk with someone? Yeah, chat with someone about something that's deeply personal that you know is not going to be leaked to anywhere because it can't. There's confidentiality clauses, so no one can say anything. But it's like this open chat that you can have with someone, and you can kind of brainstorm ideas and just kind of just get everything out in the open and be able to look at everything with like a 360 view. Know that it's not going to go back to anyone. And also have that time that's dedicated for you. That 1 hour, that 50 minutes in a therapy session is all about you, and it's all for you. And I know, like, yes, I could have done a little bit by myself and read books and done journaling or whatever, but really, when was I ever going to take the time to really dedicate that to myself? And I just kept pushing it back. So what I liked about talk therapy, it was like that 1 hour or that 50 minutes that I knew that it was going to be solely focused on my mental health, my brain, my thoughts. And to give you an idea of where I was at when I first started my therapy journey was I was an unhealthy and why can't I talk today? It doesn't help when you're doing a podcast. Barbara, I need to get my words out. Okay, so I was just repeating patterns of unhealthy, toxic relationships in work environments, in friendships, and in relationships and with family members. I was a real people pleaser. My negative self-talk was off the charts. My body image wasn't in line with how I really looked like or what I really felt like. I had a really toxic relationship with myself. I used to overthink everything all day, every day. I was a critical thinker. I was very black and white, like this is how it goes, this is how it must be. I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted to be good at everything. Not good at everything. I wanted to be the best at everything. Almost borderline, like I'm not a perfectionist, but in my career and anything I did, I just wanted to be like number one all the time. And that striving for perfection or striving to be the best and that hunger for that really wore me out. And overall, I would just say that my negative thoughts, how I talked about myself, to myself, how I talked about myself to other people, the people I was surrounded by in my working life and my personal life, was just not healthy. And I was screaming, and I mean screaming from an internal place, that I wanted love, I wanted to be heard, I wanted to be seen, I wanted validation, I wanted people to, I had a need that it didn't matter if I didn't love myself, but if I could get other people to love me, that was okay. And that becomes so isolating and so empty. If any of you can relate to that, if any of you have ever felt that before, this constant need for people to tell me how good I was, or that I was okay, or that people liked me, it's very empty. And that's where I was at, and that's how therapy has helped me, is I'm not involved in unhealthy relationships anymore. I don't people please. I don't talk negatively to myself. I don't say horrible things to myself. I don't overthink. I don't care if people like me or not. Really don't. And that's honest. And I'm very clear on what I want and where I want to go. So therapy not only helped me with all of that stuff I've just shared with you, but it also helped me in personal goals and helped me in my life where I want to go, what I want to focus on. And it helped me with my mental thoughts and building resilience within myself. And that's how it worked. That's how it worked for me. And I think it's really important on here that I don't just talk about all the good stuff. I want this to be a balanced episode of talk therapy. Yes, this whole episode is about talk therapy works 100%, but I wanted to say that the people that say, oh, it doesn't work, or it's not good, or it's not for me, it could be that mismatched therapist-client relationship. So the lack of rapport someone can have with a therapist, not feeling comfortable with them, and that's really difficult to progress. And that may happen, and that has happened. So I've had 5, okay? So you just know. And when you work with a therapist, it's okay for you to go, therapists will know, but if you just don't book the next appointment, that's okay. But you can just say, oh, hey, I'm not feeling it, this isn't for me. But most people don't say that, and that's actually okay. But also it can come from a lack of commitment, because therapy requires commitment, and you've got to have something called active participation. So you've got to meet your therapist halfway and be fully engaged and committed to the process. So the thing about therapy, and I always mention this with my clients, is we all want the shiny thing. We all want to be like, da-da, cool, we've done a couple of sessions and woohoo, we're great. Now, this thing we talk about mental health, we talk about the way we talk to ourselves and our brain and our thought process. It is a process. It is something that is a lifelong journey. I don't say that to scare anyone. Doesn't mean you have to have a therapist for life. I don't have one at the moment, but I know I can tap into those tools if I need to. And I know I can have, I have an aftercare program that I've introduced this week to my business. And that means that when you finish the chunk of your therapy session, you're going to have quarterly updates, just like, how you do regular dentist appointments or optometrist appointments or chiro appointments or breast checks or smear tests and all that kind of stuff. Why don't we have regular brain appointments? Why don't we have regular mental health check appointments? And it doesn't mean that you have to see a therapist when something's wrong. It can just be, I want to check in, because they can give you a different perspective on things. But anyway, I want to talk about still why talk therapy may not work for some people. It can be unrealistic expectations. So people can think, oh, you can fix this and you can do all this and it's all great. And how come after 2 sessions I'm not feeling anything? Or what am I supposed to feel? I'm supposed to feel like this. There can be some resistance to change, like deep down, I don't want to change. It's like people that want to go to the gym or anything in life. When you start something new, it'll be great for the first couple of times and then they'll be like, no, I don't want to change. And the lack of support too. I find that if you don't have, people don't need to know that you're going, but you need to be surrounded by a couple of people that if they know that you're going to therapy, that are supportive of it. Because you just think about it. If you go and you share with someone, I'm seeing a therapist, why do you need to go that for? Don't bother, all that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff, you think about it over and over again. So, you do need to have some form of support. And it can also be the financial barriers or access, barriers, which means that sometimes people are really fully booked and you can't see them. And it's just important to remember that talk therapy is just one of the many approaches that mental health treatment is available out there. And it's not suited for everyone, and that's okay. But we all change and we all go through different life things. So maybe now it's not your thing, but in 10 years' time it could be your thing. So that's why I'm doing this episode for you, for everyone. I'm someone that never ever would have ever done anything like this, okay? So, but I find that, talk therapy really works because it's a great place to express your emotions. Like what I personally experience as well. It's safe. When you find the right therapist, guys, it's safe and you feel supported and you can, it's a good place to air out your thoughts and your feelings and emotions, because let's be honest, when else are we going to do this? Yes, we can do it with over a wine with some girlfriends or some work colleagues and stuff. But when you think about it, when you share what's going on, you don't know, people talk, that's human nature. So even if people say, I won't tell anyone, 9 times out of 10, they will tell someone. And then also when they share their thoughts back or their perspective, what they're doing is it's coming from their vision. So you think about it, like if you're wearing purple glasses and your friend's wearing orange glasses, when the friend is sharing just their perspective or their idea, or they're genuinely trying to help you, they're seeing it through their orange glasses. So they're giving you their perspective. So it's a bit biased, where therapy is just, there's no judgment and there's no bias. So that always helps too. And no one knows yourself better than yourself. And that's where a good therapist knows that, is that you know yourself better than anyone, and we give you tools to help guide you and help you grow that person that you are. Not expectations from your parents or from society or from what people you think or you should or you must or you have to. It's like, what do you want? It's a good place, talk therapy is, for self-reflection. Again, when on earth do we have time to self-reflect? If I hadn't gone to therapy, there's no way I would have ever had time to self-reflect. And I would have just rolled my eyes and gone, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. that's probably bullshit. I can't be bothered. And talk therapy helps with problem solving. And that helped me a lot too. And it helped me to see things from a different perspective, from things that I couldn't see. And even at the time, things I didn't want to see. And that many times in that 2.5 years, especially when I was doing my therapy, my therapist would say something and I'd be like, whatever, you don't know. And then I would say, when I reflected and I got out of my own way and I would sit with it for a little bit, I'd be like, oh, because when it stings, or when someone says something and you initially go, no, or you kind of, not bite back, but you kind of react, that's hitting a nerve. And a couple of times my therapist did that. I was like, what do you know? Like, I know. Of course, Barbara knows best. You know best, right? And then I'd sit with it and go, hang on, where is this coming from? And I'd be like, whoa, no wonder it's hit a nerve. And you just sit there and it all unfolds. So I hope this is helping. I really hope this is making sense. And I'm just doing this off the top of my head. So it's real and raw as much as you can get from me. Talk therapy helped me too because it helped me grow on a personal level. I just didn't want to stay the same. Some people are okay staying the same. I was just like, ugh. How do I describe that deep knowing that I wanted to change or wanted to talk about it? I find talking about it for me is more helpful than writing things down, to be honest. I feel like it gives me a sense of connection, but also a sense of release and a sense of like getting everything out of my body. Also, the crying I did too was very therapeutic. I did a lot of crying. And don't be afraid of that. It's sometimes quite normal in the beginning when, some people never cry in therapy and some people cry all the time and some people cry a couple of times. I cried a lot, and that was a lot of the healing stuff I was working through. And also it was just a safe place that I could cry, because all the other times in my life when I wanted to cry, people would be like, oh, here Barbara's a cry baby, here she goes again, oh, she's crying again. And that shit gets really tiring after a while. When you're an emotional person and you don't have a safe place to express your emotions, and when you do, you just get the piss taken out of you. When you're in therapy, it's a nice place that it's uncomfortable as hell in the beginning, because you're crying in front of someone that you respect, and as a health professional, it's like, oh my God, this is embarrassing. Once you get past that, it's actually very therapeutic to cry. And when that's one of the hardest things. It wasn't talking about the stuff for me. I think that I found difficult in talk therapy. It was how my emotions would come up and how much I would cry and how uncomfortable that made me feel, because I felt really weak. I, for a long time, haven't coped with crying about my emotions, or like when I miss someone and I cry, I used to be thinking, oh, it's so embarrassing. Why am I so emotional? And it's because I have so much love and I'm full of love, and to be proud of that. But also because for 38 years of my life, I wasn't allowed to show any emotions. It was weak. And when I did, I just got mocked at and taken the piss out of. So why would I bother? So I constantly, for so long, and even as a kid, I wasn't allowed to cry or wasn't allowed to do anything. So that was so many years of pent up stuff that needed to come out. So that's what I found a little bit difficult. But in all honesty, talking therapy is so much more than just talking. When I have a client in front of me, talking is the least thing that I hear them. Yes, I hold space for them. But I watch their body language a lot. It tells me a lot. Because people can bullshit. And when we're uncomfortable, we say what we think people want to hear. We say what we've told everyone else. We say the things we don't realise that we're so good at saying. It's like a habit. And then, therapists, a good therapist, yes, we listen to what you say. We hold space for what you say. There's no judgment. But most of the time, I'm actually looking at how you're sitting. I'm looking at what you're doing with your hands. I'm looking at your eye contact. I'm looking at how you're holding yourself. What are you doing with your arms? What are you doing with your feet? Are you jiggling your foot? Like, I'm looking at everything, and that's telling me more than what you're saying. And that's big. So for me, talk therapy on a deeper level Yes, it's talking. Yes, it's a release. Yes, it's for guidance, expressing my emotions, for self-reflection, for problem solving, but it's for personal growth. But also it was healing for me. It was getting all the stuff that I needed to get out. It was feeling comfortable with my feelings. Yeah, that was a bit deep, wasn't it? But I truly believe, I'm not just saying this because it's my business. I truly believe, and that's why I'm here. I'm here. Oh my God, if you could get what I got out of this and what I continue to get out of this as a therapist, and what I see in the change I see in my clients, I do this thing, and it's called like I do this scale with my clients, and I do this often. So when a client first sees me, and then in their third session, and then in their number 6 session. So a lot of the time in the third session, I will say to a client, okay, when you first came and saw me, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high, like, how did you feel about therapy? How did you feel about coming to see me? How did you feel how your first session went? And they will give me a number from 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high. Most people that I see share with me they're about a 2 to a 4. Then when I head to session, it's not everyone, but I'd say it's 99% of my clients, and this is online too, it's not just in person, it's online. When they get to session 3 and session 6, it really moves up. There's huge jumps from I've seen like recently a couple of people that were 2 when they first saw me, and then at session 3 they were like 8 or 9, and it was just the sheer relief of, oh, I feel understood, I feel seen, I feel heard. I can't believe this is what therapy is like. I don't know if there's still a stigma around it, but I highly believe that there's a lot of people out there that have gone to see someone and have simply had a bad experience. And I can tell you, I have had that. Or people that just don't want to talk about their feelings, or maybe you've heard from a friend that they didn't have a good experience. And sadly, some clients that I do see too have been to a couple of places before they see me. And like, I'm not for everyone either. So you've got to find your own therapist, and it doesn't have to be me, guys. You've got to find someone that you feel connected to. And I do see that majority of people that have seen, it's probably 50-50. Some people that I am their first therapist, and some people have seen people before they've seen me. And yeah, it's just interesting that when I do that scaling of like, where are you at when you first started and where are you at now, I have a front row seat at seeing how this helps people and changes people, and they feel supported. But especially for business owners and mothers, it's an hour out of their day that's dedicated just for them. And therapy, some talk therapy isn't just about the big stuff in life. It can be about a goal for their health, or they're wanting to open their own business, or it's just many, many things. It's not just about divorce or grief or loss or anxiety or depression or stress. There's so many other things that talk therapy can really help with as well. So I just found it overall really healing. And this is my own personal experience and what I believe to be true, and how talk therapy really works. And I just find that it's the effectiveness of talk therapy can vary from person to person, and finding the right therapist is really crucial. And finding, even something that when I was doing my therapy 2.5 years ago, not 2.5 years ago, when I did my therapy for that 2.5 years, online sessions and stuff wasn't really a thing because this was pre-pandemic. But after that, I'm surprised at how many clients I have online who really enjoy it, because especially people that are like own their own businesses or have a lot on, or actually my clients that don't live locally to me that see me have online sessions, because They don't have to drive somewhere, sit in traffic and then drive back. It's something that they can do that fits around their schedule. Because a lot of the time I do see barriers about therapy is I don't have the time, and that's where the online therapy space works too. So it's really important to find the right therapist for you, but also the right type of therapy. And so I hope this episode has given you an insight into, the only way I can kind of share it was to tell you my own experience with talk therapy, and I hope that has helped someone out there. And even if it's just helping one person to kind of think, maybe I will give this a crack, maybe I will give this a go, and how, in all honesty, it wasn't just a one-time thing. It took me 5 people over from 24 to 38, and then I dedicated myself for a good chunk of time to do the work. But it can be fun and it can be really enjoyable too. I used to love seeing my therapist. I used to get excited. I used to love I'm someone that loves learning. I love to know more about myself. I really loved it, and clearly I did but I want you to hear the difference. I loved it, but it wasn't easy. And that's why most people can go to talk therapy and be like, doesn't work, or it's a load of shit, or can't be bothered, and I'll just keep living my life how I want to live because that's comfortable, that's safe, the outcome, the certainty, you know how it works. But I can tell you from the other side of me being that person that never would ever have gone to therapy and has gone to therapy and then has been like, actually, I want to help other people. And now I see how it changes other people's lives sitting on the other side of the fence. It's the most incredible thing I've ever done. And this is the most incredible job I've ever had. And it's not even a job. It's literally help. Like, I'm literally passing on what I know to others to help people. That's all I can say. And if you want to ask me any questions about therapy, talk therapy, anything at all, please shoot me a DM on my Self-Care Studio Instagram page, and I will answer you. I answer all my DMs. There's no silly question. There's no wrong question. Honestly, just if there's something you're not unsure about, have a chat with me. You can even book in for a free 20-minute chat. Like, I won't charge you for the 20 minutes to see if talk therapy is for you. And not necessarily with me, just in general. We can talk about it. What are you looking for? Where are you stuck? What do you need help with? So today was all about talk therapy and how I genuinely believe that it works, and no one knows yourself better in this world than you. And I want you to always have your own back and always trust yourself. And I hope if you've tried talk therapy, I hope you've had a good experience. If you haven't, I want you to not give up, and I want you to keep going until you find your person. And I'm blessed to do what I do, but I'm grateful that I found this type of modality and it's really helped me. And I really hope this episode has shed some light on the incredible power of talking therapy and its potential to really transform and change lives like it has for me. And if you or someone that you know is seeking support, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or a licensed therapist or a counsellor, because remember, your mental health matters and there is help available. Stay tuned for more episodes a couple more episodes that I'm going to be doing before the season for 2023 ends. And I'm always here to support you on your journey to well-being. So goodbye for now, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and it has inspired you on your self-care journey. Please feel free to share this with a friend and subscribe over on Apple Podcast. I really love hearing your feedback. So guys, please feel free to write a review on Apple and let me know which part of this episode resonated with you the most. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. To find out a bit more about Self-Care Studio or the Studio Chat podcast, head over to my Instagram page, self_care_studio, or on my website, selfcarebybarbaraThompson.com.au. Really look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Look after you. And I'll catch you soon. Bye!